that you're all joining us today here for a very special conversation with Arcui. So I'm just going to go ahead and kick us off today so we can get into the Q&A. That's the really important part. And we're going to be talking about how to fire yourself from your own company to grow. And Arcui will also explain what that means as well if you don't know. Real quick though, I just want to share our code of conduct. It looks like a big scary wall of legalese, but really just what it says is just don't be a jerk. And if you have any questions, feel free to DM me in the chat there. We'd love for you to turn on your cameras if you'd like, but if not, no problem at all. We do want this to be interactive though, so if you have questions for Arcui, please pop those into the chat. We definitely want to hear from you. This is being recorded, so there's no need to take notes, and we will share that recording in the coming days, so just check your inbox as well. And we want this to be an opportunity for you all to get to know each other, so feel free to also share your LinkedIn or introduce yourself in the chat. Let us know where in the world you're joining from. I'm coming from New York City, where it is finally feeling like spring, and super excited to have you all here. This talk is eligible for SHRM credits, and you can see the SHRM code here on the screen. I'll pause here for recommend you take a screenshot of this. I'll also share it in the chat once we get going as well. Just to tell you a little bit about Power to Fly, if for anyone who is uninitiated, well, we help organizations attract top talent and retain engaged employees with solutions that simplify recruitment, enhance employee satisfaction, and drive long-term business success. We're a 100% woman-led company backed by Morgan Stanley, and we have over 200 plus professionals across our network worldwide. And now to introduce the man of the hour, we have Arcui Usoara with us today, returning for yet another conversation. We're always happy to have him back. He's the global brand strategist and board advisor and founder of the House of Iaculus. Sorry, with projects over 6 continents, that's almost every continent, and impact on 10,000 plus businesses. He specializes in taking companies from the idea stage to 100 million ARR by building brand ecosystems that thrive in saturated markets. Unlike traditional consultants, Arcui provides ongoing leadership level support to ensure strategy turns into execution. Arcui, so glad to have you back here at the Power to Fly stage. Anything else that you want to share with our audience today?
Honestly, it's always great to be back here and to be in a room with you, Rob, and all the amazing people here. And I think I really do have a way with words. Like, none of the people I know can actually pronounce my company's name in the first try. But yeah, it's Iaculus. And yeah, nowadays I also get to act as a VC in residence for some of my other partnerships. But I think you nailed it perfectly. And yeah, as you must have realized, I'm someone who's constantly involved in all sorts of random things, moving from one sector to the other. So I'm really glad that I could be here and support you all today.
Well, we are glad you are here today as well. Just pop that SHRM code in the chat for anyone that needs it. Continue to feel free to introduce yourselves. We've got someone from Dallas, Fort Worth on the line. I'm sure it's a nice global audience as we have always. But first up, before we get into some of the questions that we had everyone pre-submitted, and if you have more questions, feel free to add them into the chat. I love Arcui just to start with talking about this title that you recommended, which is How to Fire Yourself from Your Own Company to Grow. Before we actually went live, you were just talking to me that you had actually just fired yourself from some of your own companies. So I'd love for you to briefly explain, what does this mean to you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what really can help paint a picture over here is that I'm pretty sure a lot of you are either running your small and medium sized companies, and every now and then, even though it may not be a major decision, every decision has to kind of go through you. And what ends up happening is that if you're not in the room, if you're not responding to things, or if you're not the person who's constantly there approving everything, adding your insights, things just tend to not move forward. And so you're kind of required. I kind of kept facing this, especially because I was scaling so many companies and I'm someone who likes to float around a lot. But I felt that I was not able to do a lot of that because while I was having fun and supporting other companies, my own companies felt hindered, felt that they couldn't move forward. So that's where I kind of decided to change from me being the bottleneck of my company to rather someone who scales and sustains my company, but also acts as a stepping stone. What that looks like is I fire myself, and in some cases, for some companies, I hire someone who acts as the CEO or acts as the major decision maker. And I am always brought in as rather the hired consultant. My companies tend to seek me out more so on a project basis now when they need my specific expertise. But there are other people who run things. Now, it's not something you can do right away. And to be honest, a lot of this comes from my experience working with startups, investors, and large scale companies and how they work, which helps shape both my perspective and my ability to do these things. But with that, I'm really excited to dive into this and clarify anything else.
Yeah, well, I mean, my first question is when do you know it's time to step back from operations and move into a more strategic role? And I think this could be certainly for a founder like yourself, but this could also apply to someone who is maybe a very hands-on manager, right? Like they
Ah,
like to make sure they have a hand in everything, but really at some point a manager probably should take that step back
yeah.
and have that more strategic, big picture look, even if it's sometimes hard to give away that control. So how do you know whether you are a manager at someone else's company or you are a founder like yourself? How do you know when it's time to take that step back?
I think a good way to identify this and to keep a lookout for this is when everything else seems to run very well. You have got the right people for everything else, but you are too afraid to just lose your own position, or you just constantly keep thinking that can these things not run without me? Even though you have brought in the best people, even though you got the people you wanted, you trust them, but you still feel that do I really need to be here, or can this company not sustain? I know it sounds counterproductive, but more often than not, when you're feeling that, hey, I need to be here for everything, it's mainly because now that you have brought in the right people and you're able to have a conversation with them at a level that makes sense, you find yourself wanting to solve more problems, and you find it difficult when people tend to do things that don't go exactly the way you want to, even though the results are being achieved. And you feel like, oh, okay, if I'm not needed, I'm not required. And if I'm not required, what do I do here? And I
Mhm.
know it can feel very difficult. So oftentimes this is the time to first start introspecting and reflecting and understanding like, is this one where you want to be? Is this, can you actually do something that you're choosing to ignore? It might be a unseen challenge that you would be able to address and that would still keep you here. And that was the case in one of my companies. But in some cases, it's just that you have gotten the right people. Like, let's say if you're running a marketing company, you have gotten the best copywriters, you've gotten the best people who do project management, who do sales, and you've gotten the best people who even do your job. It might be strategy or something else. Yet you feel that you need to point at everything. But if you take a step back, things still seem to run. You might come in and advise from time to time and give it that little push, but you're not really being a director now. You're being someone who's micromanaging your own success. And
Mhm.
that's not always really a good thing to do. So these are good points to really identify that, oh, yeah, maybe it's time for me to either ascend or take a step back.
Yeah, I think sometimes for us it feels good. It feels like we're accomplishing something. I'm like, well, I'm doing something super hands-on. I'm still writing the marketing email.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel like if we're thinking just about strategy, it doesn't feel like, oh, what am I doing as much? I'm not putting pen to paper. And I think we need to recognize that that strategy, that big picture thinking, is just as valuable, just as productive of if we are taking the time to write a report or write an email or create code or whatever it might be.
I absolutely, especially with AI being at the forefront it is nowadays, you can really do a lot of work with AI. And so You might find yourself doing grunt work from time to time because you have trained your AI agents to mainly do a lot of higher level things that you didn't want to do one day. And now you feel like you're just pushing things from time to time, but it's not really required for you to be doing those things. And maybe you could be orchestrating things at a higher level. So, yeah.
I love that. And you mentioned a bottleneck before. So how do you create clarity and alignment across the growing team without being the bottleneck?
I think it really starts off by bringing in the right people, people who don't just know how to do the tasks, but can work with you as cogs and support the bigger picture, the bigger vision that you have. Because at the end of the day, I know a lot of you feel like you are the company, but no. When you start a company, the moment you do that, you're an employee of your own company. You're someone who's supporting a vision for which you created this entity. And so when you have brought in the right people, who can support you here, who can't just do their own task. It's not just a developer who knows how to code, but who is suggesting things that will support the marketing or the marketing team who is not just, running campaigns, but keeps the different features that the product team is building and keeps those things in mind to create better campaigns. It's when you can see that things are aligned and you have members who are contributing and it feels to you that I want to say the same thing, but my team members are already saying that. Oftentimes, knowing that you need to fire yourself comes from one or the other thing. One, you feel that everyone is saying the same thing, and you start feeling that maybe you're not doing good enough of a job, but you literally were the reason all of these people came together. You're the reason who all of this came up, and this organization exists now. So you essentially created this ecosystem. You got the people who could help you. And excuse me. And the second reason is often when you feel like you need to lead, even though things don't need you anymore. Like, you see team members making decisions quickly and you still feel like, oh, you feel left out. And yeah, it's a bad feeling, especially when you created everything and for a while everyone wanted you, and now it's like your children growing up and now they don't require you anymore. They're like, Dad, I can cycle, Dad, I can
Yeah.
go and everything. Like, I don't need you to help me cross the street. But yeah, it's at these points you realize that, oh, okay, what else can I do? Because oftentimes when you're creating something, after a while you are in a position where you need to make sure the infrastructure is good, everything stays, everything moves. And so you stop thinking about the future as much as you would want to, because you want to make sure the present exists. You want to
Mhm.
always look at, see things that, can we manage these 15 clients or these 15 large scale contracts even before I go and try to close 100 contracts, because you're worried that I'm not involved. So will things actually go the way I want them to go and everything?
Hmm. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
also making me think whether whether you are a founder, whether you're a manager or director at someone else's company, if you should be involved across the board in other hiring. Like one thing that's making me think is make
Mm.
sure that if your company, again, whether you're the founder or a manager, if you're in marketing but they're hiring for someone in tech development,
No.
you should be a part of that hiring panel because you want to make sure that that person in development is also able to talk marketing, or someone who's in marketing should have some concept even of the technical aspects as well. So it's
No.
making me think, like, if you're just hiring within a department, making
Mhm.
sure that you're bringing someone
Yeah.
else in, that way we know that we have these cross collaboration. And I think the more cross collaboration we have, the less hands on management we will need.
Oh, absolutely. You will not believe this, but I've been hired by so many companies that are, making 100, $200 million a year, and they're not growing mainly because the CEO believes one vision, whereas the marketing team is trying to market something
Hmm.
that no one is building anymore. The product team is building a feature that nobody requires, and the development team is busy solving problems that were ditched or left out, but just because core teams are not dealing or engaging with each other, cross collaboration does not happen. It causes people to work in such silos that they just see their to-do list, but they don't see what does it actually lead to. And oftentimes larger business problems also tend to rise up because of these things. So if you see yourself in an opportunity and in a position where you can not just impact but influence the way something goes and grows in a company, it's a really good chance. Now, you may not know everything. You may not know everything about technical stuff, and you don't have to. One, you can always learn. No one was born knowing their marketing expertise, their development expertise. You can learn. But also, you don't need to learn everything. You just need to know enough to be able to actually see and make sense of things and to say that would this actually affect you or them in any way whatsoever.
Yeah, and I think as more companies are working remotely or hybrid or across continents, as you often are, you have
Yeah.
to work even harder, I think, in some ways to make sure you're not being siloed as well. We can't just walk over to someone else's desk all the time and just start that conversation.
Oh yeah.
So we make sure we need to put on those times to put on a one-on-one, to join a group meeting, to have those conversations
Uh,
continue to grow.
No, honestly, I deal with this a lot with startup founders when I join them as board advisors because they feel that, they shouldn't be told everything. They feel like, if someone is literally giving them all the resources, then what are they really doing? And I need to often remind them that while I can help you scale this company to lots of lengths, it is still going to be you who needs to lead this. It is still your vision. You have just brought me in to support you, but also if you keep making decisions without everyone being involved, then you don't know what kind of support you're missing out on. You don't know what
Mhm.
kind of opportunities you're missing out on. So sometimes I need to check in with my founders and be like, hey, so I see that this decision was made. I don't know if it has been solidified yet, and I don't want to interrupt anything, but I would love it if all of us could just engage and I could be looped in here so that if there's something we can do over here to improve it better or to add anything, excuse me, I would love to be able to do that. Or sometimes they just make decisions in regards to what they require from me. And I'm like, hey, I love that. May I know what was the intent over here? I'd just love to see what's the larger flow here, what's actually being influenced here. Just so that, we're not just making things on random tangents, but are actually working towards something in a larger alignment.
I love that. That's great. And that kind of makes me think of this other question that we had submitted, which is how do you build a team you can trust to execute without you in the room? And you talked a bit about this already, but love to hear kind of other thoughts because there is so much trust that kind of goes into that, especially if you feel like you're not always going to be there, if you're working asynchronously, all those things. So how do you build that sense of trust if you're not speaking as much as you would have been if you before you fired yourself?
Honestly, I feel like trust is something that needs to be cultivated all the time, but it doesn't need to be that, hey, I came and I solved your problem, so you need to trust me. Sometimes it just needs to be about reassurance. Sometimes in leadership, especially when you go from managing one team to 10 teams and then to a position where no one seeks you out anymore, you might feel that your team members are choosing not to trust you. But you also need to believe in them that, hey, this is what we're doing. Trust is something that works both ways. And I know that when you choose to fire yourself, you're putting yourself in a position, you might perceive it as, you're letting them down so they have all the chances or every reason to do the same to you. But it's not about that.
Mhm.
Trust, this is your way of putting trust in them. This is your way of showing them that I trust you enough with these responsibilities. But that doesn't mean you don't set boundaries. You can still set guardrails up saying that I trust you with these things, but anything outside of this, I would encourage you to reach out to me. I would prefer it if we still have conversations in regard to these things. Like, for example, for one of my companies, my initial decision was to start something new. And that time it was supposed to be a completely different company. And then one of my team members told me that, hey, I would love to, explore some different opportunities. And in my company, at least, the structure is that, I want to support your growth as much as I can because we don't really have employees. My core team, even though they're my core team, they're not really as employees. They're just, people I have on retainer. And so he just came and told me that, hey, I want to start setting up a new company and like for us to work like this. I'm like, that sounds interesting. I've been in a space to start a new company as well. Do you mind sharing what you have in mind? And he wanted to start a different company. And I was like, would you be open to joining with me in this venture and me setting this up in certain ways? And it wasn't with the intent to, take over his leadership or anything like that. I just wanted to explore continuing to build a different sort of relationship with my team member. But when he heard that, he loved it. He was like, you know what? You have already seen this in a different way. but I'd still like to be CEO. I was like, you know what? You were supposed to be CEO for these things anyways. I would have either created this myself and hired you to do this. So one way or the other, you're here, and I don't want you to feel like, I've done this. But once we did that, there were certain struggles, obviously, because when you're in leadership, these things happen. So I had a conversation with them. I'm like, hey, what's the struggle over here? What can we do? And we keep figuring these things out, because one thing you need to realize is that there's many times set up someone for leadership or any sort of success in that space. It's not just about a title, it's about helping them find their own route. So
Hmm.
training people to be leaders is very important. And that's the first thing you need to be sure of when you're choosing to fire yourself, is that is your team ready to lead themselves? Because if they still prefer someone to keep giving them those to-do lists and tasks and everything, then you need to actually analyze and see if this is the right company for you to actually fire yourself from, or what can be done over here.
Yeah. I think that's great, and I think everything you just said too. I mean, like I had just mentioned with remote work, I think sometimes it takes like that extra step to make sure you're checking in with those people, especially if you're not always in the same physical place. Like we do have to make those extra efforts as well.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking too, also, because you mentioned, folks were on a retainer, how do you vet contractors effectively? So, and this might be even again, if you're not a founder, maybe you want to get a task off your plate so you can start doing that big picture work again, but
Yeah.
don't have someone internal, you want to get in a contractor. I think we've all had that opportunity where we've been burned by a contractor before, it happens. So how are you able to vet that person effectively?
So honestly, my answers comes because I've been burned many times as well.
Sure.
But I think what I look for now is a couple of things. I need someone who knows how to do the work, but I don't need to like knows what to do, but has a way of doing things in their own way that doesn't break any rules or creates any problems, but is unique to them, that allows them to have that comfort and that accessibility to innovate. And because I'm someone, and I was telling you about this before our call as well, that I hire people so that they can do what I want them to do, but I don't want to tell them how to do things, because if I have to do both the things, if I have to tell you what to do and also tell you how to do it, I'd rather just do it myself. So there's one in that. Then second, I need someone who has accountability and has accessibility, like someone I can have access to, someone I can reach out from time to time, so that if I have any doubts or if there are any requirements, we can gauge, we can connect and explore this out. And someone who has testimonies, but it's not just about the work they did, but rather the experience of working with them. Because everybody can say that, yeah, I love the product, I love this, but did you actually enjoy working with this person? Would you actually work with
Mhm.
this person again? So there are certain traits such as, seeing recurring projects with the same company. That shows trust, that this employer wasn't just like one and done, I'm tired with this, but more so that oh yeah, perfect, this is someone I would actually want to have a longer partnership with. Then how do they actually love to communicate? I remember one time we were hiring someone and everything was great, and then in one call he was so condescending to my team members. I was like, how did I miss this? So you will
Yeah.
sometimes miss these things. So I would encourage not just going with a contractor right away, do some due diligence, to spend some time making those decisions. Don't try to make things in a rush, in a hurry, because it's kind of like building a relationship. You can't just move in right away. You need to understand a lot of other factors. You need to make sure that you sink in and align on multiple levels. So maybe do a mini project. That's something I
Mhm.
like to do, because now that my team is so concrete and I know that I don't need to necessarily bring someone for anything right now, I start doing micro trial projects where people I'd like to potentially hire to see actually what would that look like and everything. Now, not everyone has that liberty or the ability to do that all the time, but if you have the chance to test someone out, to work with them on a sort of project, do these things, because it gives you an option to actually check, would this work out, when you actually invest not just money but for a serious commitment. Like, you might choose to bring someone in for a really big project because he needed to work, and then right after cashing and everything, they start showing their true colors, and you're not just screwed monetarily, but you have screwed up a client project, you have messed up multiple things, and nothing can really fix that, because forgiveness points goes away very quickly. So as much as you can, try to vet and establish working relationships. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's great. I love the idea of the micro projects as a way to test. And I also thinking from my own experience, I value so much how they communicate with you during the initial process. Because to me, communication is one of the most key things. And I'd rather have a vendor say, you know what, I need more time to do this than to
Hmm.
have them ghost you and then get you everything, but like a week later, like I like the communication, and I'm probably much more
Yeah.
accepting if I hear, oh, you need extra time, and then they
Oh
explain why
yeah.
you need that extra time, rather than like you just don't hear from them and then it's
Oh,
rushed or
that's the worst feeling. Yeah.
yes, exactly. Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And kind of last question for you as we kind of start to wrap up Arcai is brand narrative. I know this is something you do a lot with for your work. So, how do you build a brand narrative that holds up without a founder constantly driving it? And then, how do you ensure that brand consistency as you scale? Because I think we've all seen brands out there in the world where the founder leaves
Yeah.
and you never hear from that brand again. The brand is the founder, right? So how do you build that brand narrative that's
Yeah.
apart from that founder and keep that consistent as you grow?
I think the biggest mistake people make over here, founders make over here, is that they confuse their personal brand with their business's brand.
Hmm.
I say this very often, and I say this a lot before as well, is that your business is a baby. If you have co-founders, you're creating something new, but it is not you. While your business represents a part of you, it's its own entity. Just like how you're not defined by your business alone, your business isn't defined by you. So don't try to influence your personal brand over here. Do not try to wrap it around you. Do not promote your brand on your own personal brand and try to show up all the time for the company. The sooner you start to treat it as a different entity and help shape it, rather than try to put parts of yourself in it, the better it is, because what it allows you to do is, one, see it as a different identity and not see yourself be merged in it, so that you don't see it as a personal attack anytime it does something that you wouldn't do and everything. But also, you get to set guidelines, get to set brand voices, expressions, traits, all of these different things that will influence your product marketing and everything else, and you get to have people follow through on that. So the sooner you can make sure that you are not even trying to attach yourself to the brand, but rather you're here to build something up, the better it is, because then you're shaping something that can exist without you, because you were never really something that was as a parasite to the brand, but rather someone who was sculpting it from, the ground up and everything.
Yeah, I think that's great. One thing I love that we do here at Power to Fly is our CEO, Melina, she does lots of interviews, but I've done interviews on behalf of the company. My other colleagues have as well. We're not just associating the brand with this one person, the co-founder, the CEO. It has all these other voices, and I do think that can make it so much stronger in the long run.
Yeah. I think that's one of the best things you can do as a company at any stage, is that even if you as a CEO need to show up, it's clear that you're here representing the company, not the other way around.
That's a
Yeah.
great point.
Yeah.
And as we wrap up, Arkai, where can our audience learn more about you? Where can they reach out, find out about your work if they want to work with you? What are the next steps that they should take?
Well, the next best steps you can do is get in touch with me via LinkedIn, and I'll put that here in the chat in a minute. And if you want to explore working with me, the only company I'm still actively an employee at is my oldest agency, Iaculus. And so, if you're looking for someone who can help you with your brand strategy, positioning, differentiation, to help you create a brand that isn't siloed to you and something that shapes and scales in saturated markets, I'd love to explore that. Outside of that, if you're a startup, or if you're someone building in a saturated market and are looking for funding or advice, I'd love to explore conversations with you. Either I can connect you with one of our working VCs, or if I can help you with our accelerators, I'd love to do that.
Amazing. Well, we have had the good fortune to work with you on some things, and you've spoken with us, and I know you're going to be back for some future chats. So if you want to hear more from Arkai at Power to Fly, just check out our website and hear about that. We will share this recording, or perhaps you're already watching the recording, but we'll share this recording in a few days as well. And thank you all for taking this 30 minutes out of your day to do something to further your own career. So please make sure that you give yourselves pat on the back or little treat or whatever that is, because you took that important step today. We'll be back soon with more amazing conversations like this one. And until then, we will see you all on our website and elsewhere. So thanks again, everybody. Have a great